Welcome to the Journey Coach. This is Dr. Tami Moser. And as you know, on this channel, we spend time with professionals who are pursuing doctoral degrees, helping them learn how to be more efficient and effective in that process, and providing tips and tools to more easily transition from being a doctoral learner to being a dissertation writer. Today, we're going to talk about how to make a choice between a PhD and a professional doctorate that has some specific ways in which you should consider each degree and what it'll do for you in your career. So as always, if you like the video, if you want to get more information about videos that are coming up and be alerted when they happen, be sure and hit the like and subscribe button. All right, let's dig into it and talk about PhDs versus professional doctorates. And some universities that you may be considering actually have both tracks. And so you make a choice about which one you want to pursue. Others, you're going to be going to completely different universities depending on which degree makes the most sense for you. So at a fundamental level, a PhD is a doctorate in philosophy and focused on your particular area of expertise. However, you're looking at it through the lens of an academic, from creation of theoretical frames and actually adding to the body of knowledge in your final dissertation project. Most of the academic coursework is focused on writing for other academics, and you could consider this preparation writing for academic journals. So your final dissertation, and it will be a dissertation in a PhD program, is the standard 5-chapter model: introduction, literature review, methodology, results, and then discussion of those results. And to give you an example, you may find those anywhere from, at the short end, around a 70-page written document. My dissertation was 262 pages, and there are those that are longer than that. So it really depends on what you're focusing on and what you're digging into in terms of the literature, and then how you actually approach your study in terms of methodology. But it's a significant written piece of work at the end of that program. And you're looking for a gap in knowledge that you can seek to fill to some degree through your dissertation work. So that's a PhD at its base level. A professional doctorate, that would be things like a doctorate in behavioral health, a doctorate in business administration, a doctorate in public health. It usually starts with doctorate. It'll be a DBH, a DBA, a DPH, a doctorate in computer science, a DCS. There is a fundamental difference in the focus in these programs. So these programs are more for a professional orientation towards doctorate level work and research. So you're looking for ways in which to better understand problems in industry, solutions that are possible, and you're digging in from that viewpoint. So much of your written work, as you move through the program, while it will still be focused on what we know, what literature tells us, what theory is there, it's more of a scholar practitioner model where you are learning how to be a scholar and how to understand what we know through the literature and research that exists. But you're coming at it from a practitioner orientation where you want a better understanding of how that relates to everyday practice, how it can be used in practice or tested in practice. And that's part of what you're truly trying to understand. So when you get to your end of the program, you still do research. The research looks a little different, and it can be called different things. So it may still be called a dissertation. It may be called a field project, a capstone project. As most of you know, I hold 2 doctorates. I hold a PhD in management, traditional PhD approach, 262-page dissertation, 5-chapter model. I also have a doctorate in behavioral health. My DBH, practitioner orientation, the scholar practitioner model. The capstone project is what it was called there. And I think it ran about 50 pages for me, although they really like to see you orient more toward a 25 page based on the results I had because of the implementation research I did that extended what I needed to cover in mine. But there's a significant difference between writing 262 pages and 50 pages. And in the practitioner model, it was more oriented toward communicating toward a professional audience. So while the writing still had the academic framework and still covered literature and methodology and results and then discussion of the findings, all of that was through the lens of the practitioner and how it could be used in actual everyday work and process for professionals in that area. So just a different orientation. Is it useful? Absolutely. Their orientation through the program and in that final stage was more in writing for a practitioner audience and writing toward an article length so that you could take that and then be able to publish in a professional journal of some type and it be close to the types of links you might be looking at. Whereas in PhD programs, generally those are larger projects. It takes a little bit more time and attention to actually dig through your dissertation and pull it together into an academic journal article. So fundamentally, those are some of the differences. It's really the orientation that you're taking in the degrees, and being aware and familiar with that is important. That also connects to what do you want to do with this degree and what's your end goal in pursuing a doctorate, right? Whether it be a PhD or a DBH, DBA, whatever it might be. If one of the common explanations I hear is I want to teach in higher education. The rule for accredited programs and universities as a whole is typically that you have to have a degree above the level at which you're teaching. That's one of the reasons why that you will often see in associate's degree programs in community colleges that many of the instructors just have bachelor's, or in bachelor's level programs, you'll see many of the instructors just have master's degrees. But if someone's teaching at a master's degree or a doctorate level, then they must have a doctorate to teach. And there is one caveat to that, and that is that you can see experience count toward education. And so there's paperwork that you fill out for that to actually kind of credential someone. This might be something like you have a Steve Jobs come in and teach a class on entrepreneurship. Well, I don't know his level of education, but let's just say it was a bachelor's degree and they were having him come in and teach an entrepreneurship class for doctorate students. He would be credentialed in for that because of his years of experience as a successful entrepreneur, as an example. So if you want to teach in higher education, then one of the things you need to get clear on is what kind of topics do you want to teach? And is the program you're going into going to have an alignment with what they expect? So for instance, if you want to teach in human resource management, generally speaking, those programs require a minimum number of hours in human resource management. So are you going to get that in your PhD or your doctorate? Then you've got to look at, are you wanting to go full-time or adjunct? And if you want to go full-time, then you need to look at the roster of faculty they have at that university and look at the credentials they have. So are they all PhDs? That would indicate that a PhD is what they're going to find acceptable, and they may not accept doctorates for full-time faculty members. If they have a list of adjuncts and adjuncting is what you want to do, then look at their credentials. Do you see professional doctorates mixed in with academic doctorates, the PhD? And if the answer is yes, then you can really make a choice based on timelines and some other kinds of approaches that you might find more viable or interesting. If you're wanting to stay in practice and maybe you want to consult, then pull up 3 or 4 competitors that consult in the space you're interested in and see what kind of credentialing they have. Do they have doctorates? If they do, what kind are they? And you might need to think more about the doctorate in terms of how you can leverage that final research piece. So it may make more sense for you to pursue a professional doctorate because you want to consult and you can leverage your final piece of research to focus in on the niche or the specialty you want to be in so that you can leverage that for clients and industry articles and things of that nature. So being in a program that's more practitioner oriented and where implementation can be very important, or problem identification, that would make more sense for you. So part of this really comes down to, what do you want to do with it, and what kind of orientation do you want to have when you get done with it? Now, another point to consider is timelines. PhDs typically take longer, and I'm using generalizations here because programs will differ, but the typical progression in a PhD will be at least 2 to 3 years of coursework, and that can depend on whether you go in as a cohort and you take one class at a time, or they allow you to take multiple classes at a time. Some programs will only let you take one 8-week class at a time, or one 10-week class at a time. Others will let you take up to 2 or 3 at a time. And so then it's, could you handle that and actually get the work done and keep on pace? Only you can answer that. But you need to know, what does that look like for the program you're considering? Because that's going to have an impact on what you would want to do. Once you get done with coursework, PhD programs, you do comprehensive exams. And when you do those exams, they can run anywhere from, you have a week to 6 weeks to actually complete the exams, and then there's grading time. If you don't pass them the first time in the written work, then you often get at least one opportunity to retake the exams. The exams are usually short papers, 20 to 25 pages, surrounding specific topics, and there can be anywhere from 3 to 5 topics you have to write on. Again, that varies from program to program, but you want to understand what that timeline's like and where it fits. Then you start, once you've passed your comps, you start your dissertation phase. Those who work with us at the Journey Coach and the Dissertation Accelerator, we have evidence of being able, using our process, to get students that are doctoral learners and in the PhD dissertation phase. Once they start with us, they finish anywhere from 12 to 16 months after starting our program. And sometimes that delay from the 12 months to up to the 16 months has more to do with life circumstances, moving, graduations, new babies, that kind of just delay a little bit in the progression overall. But that is quick for a dissertation, right? So again, that's 70 to 262 pages, original research, you're collecting data, and it also depends on methodology, whether you're quantitative or qualitative, that can have an impact on that timeline as well. But a year to a year and a half on a dissertation is really quick. You will often see 2 to 4 years on the dissertation, depending on whether someone contracts with someone like us in the accelerator or another program like that, or they're doing it just on their own, even with good chair and committee support, that can still drag on longer. So timeline, a dissertation, generally you time out between 7 and 10 years in a program, meaning from the time you start your coursework to the time you're done with your dissertation, you have 7 to 10 years. So they can take that long. And there are a good number of learners who start who are ABD, all but dissertation, and they never make it through. And that's what our accelerator is designed to actually help with. So you can always look into that if you're getting closer to that phase. Now, your professional doctorate typically has a shorter timeline in coursework, often does not have comprehensive exams, more often than not integrates the way in which they work with and manage the overall dissertation project, okay? Because again, it can be called field project, capstone project, different things. And it's shorter, generally speaking, the expectations. Now, you need to ask about that, because there are some professional doctorates that follow the 5-chapter dissertation model and are expecting that 70 to 150 pages. They have some minimum links associated with them, and they're, your orientation is still different, but they still want a more robust overall writing. But many of them have scaled it down, not in academic rigor, but in the level of concise writing they want. And that's an important point, because writing in a more concise format is actually harder than being able to be really expansive and kind of roam around with what you're talking about to a certain degree. So shorter is not always easier, right? But that being said, you can look at how they've integrated it together in different ways. So I'll use the doctorate of behavioral health that I went through as an example. My PhD had the traditional format, right? 2.5 years to 3 years of classes, depending on if you doubled up in some semesters. Then comprehensive exams usually took anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks in that phase. And then you could go into your dissertation and you moved through milestones and could spend a certain amount of time in different milestones, and you just kept being enrolled in dissertation courses. In the doctorate of behavioral health, it was about 4 years total for the program. You could take only one class at a time, 2 classes a semester, 16-week semester, which would be full-time in the program. You could take up to 1 in the summer. And it took about 2.5 to 4 years to kind of work your way through all of that. I say in your last year and a half, they had 3 16-week dissertation courses, capstone project courses that were split into distinct milestones. So you had to be complete with all the milestones in one of those courses to be able to enroll in the next one, or you would just be enrolled in that one again. But they would let you enroll in the first one a year and a half out from being done with your coursework. So if you were organized enough and savvy enough, you could actually move through all 3 of those research phases, complete all the milestones during each semester, and finish your last class, as well as defend your research in the last semester and be done with the entire program in 4 years. So if you've prepared yourself well, and this really holds true for the PhD too, if you prepare yourself well throughout the coursework and you have clear identification through the coursework, and you can leverage what you've learned through the coursework where you're ready to start, hit the blocks and start on the dissertation or the capstone project, you're in a much better place. You'll go faster in many instances. So we have videos that can help with that, and some of the programs and suggestions we make on how to get organized and actually track as you move through, that can be helpful. So you might want to look for those videos as you get started in a program. So I hope this helps you. You know, when you're looking at these two, it is an important decision to make, and it really is fundamentally connected to what you want to do with the doctorate, how long you want to spend, or the timeline you are looking at for advancement into a doctorate. You also may want to consider, as a side note, if you work for a larger organization that actually will help pay for doctorate level education, you might want to make sure you check with them and see if they have specific guidelines associated with PhDs versus professional doctorates, or timelines where they'll actually pay out. So they may go, we will help pay for a doctorate, but only for 4 years. And if you're not done in 4 years, then we're not paying anything past that 4-year mark. Or they may have it associated with a certain amount of money that they'll actually invest in you. And if they're paying, then they may require a certain number of years back from you. So you may want to investigate that too, just to kind of dot your I's and cross your T's, and make sure that if you're getting, some support in that, that you're actually thinking through your choice in program in relationship to what they'll support. I hope this has been helpful. Again, you can always come back and make sure you check the channel for other videos that would help. And if you have particular questions about this topic, don't hesitate to ask them below. We monitor this and we'll get back with you. It's been a pleasure to spend a little of my day with you, and I wish you all the best in your pursuit of a doctorate degree. Thank you.